Another day, another word.
Another day, another word. Oh, today's gonna be good too. It's weird, man. The more I talk, the more I have to say.
Is that why they call it the living word?
The living word. That must be why. At least one of the reasons why. Okay, so I need to start us off with this. So when I was young, I was not an artist. Oftentimes, there were several times, and my parents will attest to this, that I failed or got very bad grades on projects because I just refused to color. Like, I would not do it. Because of that, as expected, I grew into a very terrible marketer. I'm bad at marketing. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't like it. But last night I was having a conversation with a guy, and he talked about The Purple Cows, which is some book that I haven't read. But the minute he said it, I got it. Okay? Here's what I understand from it. Right now, somebody is scrolling, and they looked at this video, and they said, oh my gosh, that guy looks like an idiot. He's wearing the dumbest bucket hat ever. And you know what I say to them? Made you look.
Mm-hmm.
The Purple Cow.
Okay.
That's The Purple Cow.
Okay. Yeah. The big billboards going down the highway that say, does marketing work? Just did.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not about being good or bad. Yeah. Ooh, back to our not good or bad. It's just something doing a thing. Mm-hmm. It's not good or bad. It's just
something to catch you.
Needs to get you into the moment at least.
Uh-huh. So the concept, I think, goes along the lines of there's so much noise everywhere around us now.
Mm-hmm.
And everything looks mundane and normal. You have to do something abnormal or weird to get people to stop. And when they stop, you got them. They're hooked.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our new marketing gimmick.
Yeah, you just got to cut through the noise.
The Purple Cow.
Purple Cow. I like it.
Yeah.
Yes. For as much marketing as I've been a part of, I've never thought like, I'm into marketing or I like it or like it's good or like I want to do it. And it's absolutely necessary.
It is.
Today in the market, at least. So, Purple Cows, I like it. Okay.
Isn't that crazy? So,
yeah.
I wanted to start with that just to give the explanation for why I look dumb, but it's going to be great. And moving forward, I think what we can do is we can do little Easter eggs in our videos and just do something really random, you know?
Yeah.
Throw a vacuum on a table or something.
On a completely unrelated marketing note.
What you got?
I brought today Cuvee coffee.
Cuvee. That's good. Shout out Cuvee.
Spicewood, Austin locals.
Ooh, that was a crazy sound.
Yeah, that was pretty serious
I hope
right
the
there.
mic picked that up.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild. That almost sounds not healthy for drinking,
Oh,
but
man.
Also great.
No, I mean, it's
It revved like a
well
car.
nitrogenated.
Nitrogenated.
Is that a word?
It is now.
New word of the day. All right, yeah, but it's, oh man, actually it is pretty good. I don't know if I've ever had their mocha. For as many as I've had, I think it's always been the vanilla. There's like a banana.
There's a banana.
Standard.
A
yeah.
banana coffee? That probably is so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, that was good.
So we talked about, I can't remember if it was the last episode or the episode before, sales tricks.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up the psychology of human misjudgment. I have something interesting on that caught me while I was reading the Bible yesterday. And I wrote it down. So there's a psychology of human misjudgment element called Wiziati, which is an acronym. WYSIATI. We'll have to throw that on the screen because it's kind of long.
What you see is what you get.
What you see is all there is.
Oh.
What you see is all there is. And it's this concept of people forget that information exists outside of what they have gotten, if that makes sense, outside of what they've registered. And so I'm reading through Ezra, okay, at the beginning of Ezra. And it's so funny how this breaks down. So Nebuchadnezzar just ransacks Judah, takes everybody into slavery, destroys the temple, takes all the money, okay? After Nebuchadnezzar comes Cyrus, King Cyrus, Babylon. King Cyrus says, oh, you guys can go back, build your temple, take all the money, go make something happen. So they go back and they start rebuilding. And then King Artaxerxes comes in and the enemies write to King Artaxerxes and they say, hey, Go look at the history from Nebuchadnezzar of these guys. They're awful. These Israelites are going to overthrow you. They're not going to pay their taxes. They're terrible people. You shouldn't let them build the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And Artaxerxes goes, okay. And he goes and looks in the histories of Babylon, finds Nebuchadnezzar's information, is like, oh, yeah, they're bad guys. We should stop this. And so he makes an order to stop it. And they stop. Wiziati. He never looked at Cyrus, right? He didn't read the whole history. He just read part of the history.
What he saw.
But it happens again. Look how the manipulation happens one more time. After Artaxerxes comes Darius, King Darius. And the Israelites write to King Darius and they say, hey, you should go look at your history at what King Cyrus told us we were allowed to do. He told us we can rebuild this. Like, it seems like it's all kosher and good, right? And he goes and he looks back at Darius, but he doesn't look at Nebuchadnezzar and he doesn't look at Artaxerxes. He just looks at, he looks at Cyrus. And he goes, oh yeah, King Cyrus said that this was supposed to be built. Why is it not built yet? Obviously, move forward. And it's just funny how the cycle went where they would look back in history, find the confirming evidence that they needed to make their decision, and then move forward. That is like Wiziati at its finest. When I read that, I was just like, oh my gosh, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
We Google exactly what we want to see, and we don't see anything else.
Yeah. Really gross version of exploring Google this way. I was telling someone basically the same thing. Like, Google will affirm whatever you try to search.
Yeah.
And I looked up how eating your feces is good for you. 36,000 results.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Crazy. You can find it on the internet. You can find whatever you want.
Yeah.
Any confirming evidence.
Mm-hmm.
I had an aphorism on this. I just don't remember if it was Google or if it was for science, but it was something along the lines of the smart scientist looks for confirming evidence. The wise scientist, the opposite. And it was mostly like, if you want to be wise and actually make good decisions, Google the exact opposite of what you're trying to prove.
Yeah.
And just swallow up all the stuff that makes you feel like an idiot that you oversaw and didn't think about.
Oh, yeah.
People don't do that. That's like professional Googling right there.
Okay. Yeah. My brain was actually traveling along this just earlier today. I was thinking about like good and bad sides of the story and perspective as we were going through. It's like, oh, stop saying like. Good and bad sides of the story. If you can't interpret both, or if you can't like think through both sides, I don't think you're making a choice about where you are and where you stand. You're just sitting with whatever you were given,
You're
or
just getting the confirmed. Yeah.
And
the
you're just,
Wiziati problem is all over you.
yeah. I think true faith, or like truly making a choice, or truly like being part of your decision making, is being able to say like, what is the good in this? What is the bad in this? Or what is the left? What is the right? What is the wise? What is the foolish? Knowing both, and then picking the one. Without knowing both, you're not choosing.
You're not making the right decision.
Yeah.
So
well, you could make the right decision.
You could, but it's 50-50.
And it's not by like voluntary conscious choice
and understanding.
It's just by, you happen to be given the good piece of data. You happen to have got the right.
The confirming evidence you went to search for was you started off on it was 50-50 where you started, and you ended up in one place or the other.
Yeah.
That's so true, especially for the Bible. You think about people who are very anti-Christianity and anti-Bible. They know by heart all of the parts of the Bible that talk about slavery and, beating people up, killing people, all of that stuff. And they know nothing about the good and righteous and wise ways of living that are in there. Vice versa, there are probably Christians out there who know all of the really nice, sweet verses and have never dug into this stuff that you go like, ooh, that's weird. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you got to know both.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, what an interesting place to start. So Wiziati.
Wow. Yeah.
My favorite Wiziati one. I don't know if I've said this. I've probably said this before on the pod. I'm not sure. Is don't trust the doctor with a 5-star review, because anybody that would give them bad reviews 6 feet under. That's it, right? What you see on the reviews, you assume that's all there is, and there's probably dead people that would probably be like, nah, that guy did me wrong.
Yeah. So in sales, let's bring this back to sales.
Yeah.
where does what you see is all you get?
All there is. Yeah.
Or all there is. Is that, are you saying like what the salesman prescribes you is how generally the consumer will then make their decision?
100%. What you see is all there is in sales is on brand building, personal brand building. You look at people like Grant Cardone or, I don't know, any other kind of big figure that's like, hey, I'm rich. This is how I made it. And what you see is all there is. You look at them and you go, oh yeah, I just have to do what they did and I can get there. And what you miss, just like the doctor, what you miss is all the people that have already tried to do that thing, but die along the way. So me, I was all up Warren Buffett, just like feeding up on that dude. Like, yeah, I can do exactly what he did. And so this was a Wiziati for me moment where I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. Anybody that does what he does gets wealthy. And I could think of 3 other examples off the top of my head. And I was like, this is a no brainer. But what you forget is all the people that have done the exact same thing and didn't get there. So yeah, whenever they're selling their brand or selling their mode of operation and getting you to follow them, Wiziati all the way.
Okay. There's poop. I was on it. I lost it. What you see is all there is.
Another sales gimmick. I think there's a lot of sales gimmicks to this.
Totally. But it's along the what you see is all you get. Dang. For all the listeners that love my pauses, great. For all the ones that don't, well,
here it is.
Hit the 2x speed button. Ooh. In the sales position, then, is the motivation to really control or manage the conversation? Do they only get good info, or like what?
I don't think so. I think there's something. I think the Wiziati just goes really far up the chain. Where as a salesman, if you're selling somebody something that you believe in, that you truly believe in, you probably ignore all the times that it didn't work for other people. I mean, let's say you're selling a magic pill, a magic diet pill, and you've witnessed personally 6 people that you've sold that to that have lost a ton of weight, but you've sold it to 30 people. And you don't even follow up the other 30 people. You don't worry about it. You don't think about it. You're just so eager about like, let me tell you how I changed these other people's lives. That you're stuck in the Wiziati just as much. Nobody wants to look at the disconfirming evidence.
Okay. All came back now. Thank you.
Boom.
So I'm thinking of Mark Cuban is one example I've kind of heard of, kind of like Warren Buffett. Another one, can't remember Elon's Musk story enough, but Mark Cuban, and if I'm wrong, dude, excuse me, correct me.
He's an avid listener.
Yeah, for sure. But he made the largest sum of money that he ever made in like one deal. On his first like company he invested a whole lot of time in. He was just part of the crew. It happened to turn out really well. There's like 3,000 startups a day in America or something, and 98% of them never do anything, and only 0.5% actually go to like a multi-billion-dollar company. And he was a part of that. But now a lot of his model, he's like, oh, you get rich by diversifying and getting in a whole bunch of different asset classes. And he's like saying all this stuff, and it's not how he did it at all either, which is interesting, because that's wealth. If I went on TikTok and did wealth management or something, everyone's like, oh, diversify your assets. And I feel like most of them just happen to get a lot of money because of one deal that they took a risk on, or that they were a part of, and then they have a chunk that then they diversify because then it's safer. They probably never want to go through that risk that they took again, honestly. But yeah, so that's just one that I heard pretty recently.
So I have a great one for that. I do. This is Warren Buffett talking about investing. So it's specifically about investing and kind of battling back against the people who thought about efficient markets. And he kind of agrees with them in a way. There's a side story that we'll get away from, but this analogy is huge. And I'm not going to give you numbers. We're going to make a policy right now. No math on the pod. No mental math on the pod. So we don't look stupid.
No.
So imagine...
This is a great sales meeting rule. If you're in sales,
no mental math.
No mental math. Don't say those numbers because they will hold you accountable for it. And all of a sudden, what you see is all there is they're like, this guy can't even do basic math in his head.
So true.
And then they don't trust you.
So true. Wow. Hey, they could pause there and be like, I know everything now. I'm good. No mental math. Okay, so the hypothetical for Warren Buffett that he gives is he says, imagine you take the entire country and you make a structure where you say, hey, at the end of this game, we're going to pay somebody $1 million or $1 billion. Or even better, we'll pay everybody $10 for every round they make it through. And the game is you got to flip a coin. And if it lands on heads, you're out. If it lands on tails, you get to go to the next round. So you have 300 million people in the US right now. We're not going to do the mental math, but every time it goes, kind of gets cut in half. That gets small really, really fast. And what's funny is it's 100% chance. But what Buffett talks about is he says, as you get down to the later rounds, you have people that have either A, they're really close to making a ton of money, or if their money's doubling every time, $10, whatever you're around, like they've made a lot of money. And now they're writing books, right? You're at the last 1,000 people. They're writing books and giving seminars. Oh, this is how you flip a coin to make sure you get tails. This is how this is how we did it. This is how it happened. All of these things. And really, it's just like they fell into it. That's as far as I want to go with the analogy, because that is the way a lot of people like Mark Cuban get there, and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, all of them. They have these philosophies like, hey, here's how I got here, but you really can't tell if there was actually truth to it or if they just happen to hit tails more times in a row than somebody else, and now they're just coaching you like, you got to do it this way.
Yeah.
So, and that's true about Mark Cuban. He sold a radio company to Yahoo, internet radio company to Yahoo in 2000 or 2001. So right as the internet bubble was happening, and then it completely collapsed and Yahoo scrapped it. And they were like, this was bad. But yeah, he just got right place, right time.
Yeah.
Right place, right time. Yep.
So, fascinating. And other sales stuff.
It kind of goes back to our thing about the portfolio extremes happen in small numbers. When you're rich and you have a lot of wealth, extremes can hurt you. They can go down just as much as they can go up. Going up doesn't matter anymore because you have all the money. Yeah. So diversifying is important, very important, because it makes the extremes more level. There's less of them. When you're not wealthy and you're trying to build wealth, you thrive on extremes because you can only go so far down. And it's not that far.
Yeah. And
the upside is so huge. So concentrating makes all the sense in the world, and you count on those extremes. You want them to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I was debating doing numbers in my head. Mental math.
No mental math.
Gosh. Yeah, because every number scenario I've reviewed on our podcast, I've said wrong.
That's funny.
Well, then let me talk about it this way. I have to say numbers.
Give a few numbers.
All right. If my net worth was $100, $100 gain to me is, I just doubled up.
Yep.
My net worth is $1 million. $100 is nothing. It's ratios. That's what I tell everybody.
Yep.
Life, at least in financial decisions, I think are related a lot to ratios, where all growing up I always heard, gosh, I can't believe someone would spend so much money on a car. Or gosh, I can't believe they'd buy so many houses or stuff. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's all about the ratio to like how much wealth you have or how much money you have. Where a $400,000 car for someone who has $400,000 makes 0 cents. 100% of your wealth is in a car. If your wealth is $400 million and
$400,000 car.
$400,000 car is nothing.
Yep.
It's like, buy the car. I hope you do. I'm glad people have that much money. Go buy those things. Gives me hope. Shows me there is a way that it can happen. So
there are ratios to it for sure.
Yeah. So
man.
Yeah.
Okay, you were saying other sales things before we got onto that.
Yeah, I don't know. Man, my sales experience I remember started off with, they were like, you're going to cold call. You're going to cold call a lot. And they gave me a little mirror. I put a mirror in front of my phone. So whenever you call somebody, you make sure and smile and look at that mirror. Make sure that they can hear you be excited.
Smile and dial. Yeah, make sure they hear happiness in your voice. Don't let them know that the last guy just ripped you a new one.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. And it came from a guy who was on a sales team in the early days of Oracle. And he was like, oh, well, this worked then. So, it's got to work now. We were smiling and dialing for no money.
Mm-hmm. Was it commission only?
No, I was getting a salary too.
That's good.
But like that, his whole strategy.
Yeah.
Had no success, but the merit was based on, I've done this before in this time, different context, different all this stuff, but
it was a Wiziati.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Wiziati moment.
Yeah.
That's it. People, yeah, they do this a lot in the world of finance when they build their wealth, business strategy, personal strategy, whatever it is. When something worked, they forget how much is attributed to chance. And there is a lot of chance in the world around us. And there was a lot of chance in the Bible too. There was, I've thought a lot about casting lots. It's everywhere in the Bible. Do you think about it ever? I assume not.
It has not come up. No. Please do reinform me.
I mean, it's what they did all the time in the Old Testament to decide where they casted lots. The tribes of Israel casted lots to decide who would be located where around the Promised Land. They casted lots to be like, okay, you get the first.
I guess I've read it. I've never delved into what is casting lots. Is it rolling dice?
So casting lots.
It's like throwing bones on the street corner?
Sort of, yes. That's exactly right. In a bag, they would call it these, I think they were rocks, and they would be marked different things for each different person, and then they would throw them and just see what turned up. And that was the way that, back then, that was the way, there's a lot to this, I guess. That was the way God spoke. It spoke to people and made things happen in his direction, right, before the Holy Spirit. Was casting lots was like recognized as like that's the will of God. Wow. And then it got co-opted, I'm sure, because all of a sudden you could load the dice and be like, no, but that was God's will. And then people start distrusting God's will and the casting of lots.
Mm-hmm.
And the chance becomes less about chance and more about manipulation. And I'm sure at some point that's how it got tainted and ended up not happening anymore. But I still think there's merit to it. Like the Gideon's fleece idea. Gideon put his fleece out to confirm that it was God talking to him.
Yes.
Why don't we just roll a dice or flip a coin anymore to confirm that it's God,
What does the term chance mean to you?
It's an interesting question. The best word that comes to mind is random, but
okay, so it's
out of control.
Okay.
Something like that, I would say. It's a great question. What does chance mean? Where are you going?
I hear chance and think opportunity. If I have a chance at something, I have an opportunity to go get it.
Uh-huh.
Now, if I have no opportunity to go do it, I have no chance, then yeah, it's not worth even considering. But if there's a chance, there's opportunity.
That's cool.
And opportunity is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But there is a possible outcome for me to succeed. This is one where I'm about to explore theology with you and not try to state theology.
Yeah.
I know, but at least like talking about the Bible is kind of exploring theology.
Hit it. What you got?
So, David.
Yep.
Taking on Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
If David had died fighting Goliath, would he still be in the Bible?
I don't know. There would be a lot missing. That is for sure.
There'd be a lot missing, and like let's cut out. I'm already now thinking out loud. The lineage and like who comes after David would cause a whole bunch of issues. But on the concept of David taking a chance, God was backing him up. He heard God. God said, "Go do this."
Mm-hmm.
God also told Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac up on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
And once he committed, he's like, "Don't do it." But
sorry, but
yeah,
thanks, man. That was good.
God could have been saying, "Go do this," because I need to strike you down because you need to get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Chance.
The chance. So, like, where? applying it to our lives, like why don't we go face Goliath? Because actually, I'm gonna stop there. Like, why won't we go just face Goliath?
Well, my first thought is, if we combine our natures of chance, I would say that chance is always there. There's always some element that you can utilize randomness and probabilities and execute on something that may or may not work. So I think there's always a Goliath out there that you can go try to tackle. People are scared to. Or they don't have that confirmation.
Yeah. So he had a calling. Go do it.
And think about the probability of him being there. What is the odds that he was there when Saul made the announcement that was like, if you go kill this guy, he's freaking us out. If you go kill him, like, you can marry my daughter. I'll give you whatever you want. What are the odds that he was there at that time when that announcement happened and then was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be the guy to go do it.
Yeah. For God's plans are greater than ours. Like he works in mysterious ways. He works outside of the bounds of space, time, and matter. Like, the comfort, I guess, I find in that question is switch it. I'm going to go fight Goliath.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that died trying to fight Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
Am I in the story?
Probably not.
No. Did the story still happen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's fine.
What is it that you told me? You told me that goes right back to the story is always good. That doesn't mean it's good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Chance and probability is going to lead the story in the path that it's headed, right? Wherever God's got his finger on it going.
Yeah.
That does not mean that every time you flip your coin, it's going to be tails. Somebody's got to get heads for the game to keep going.
Yeah.
And just because the story is going to be good in the end, doesn't mean that'll be good for you and you'll be out.
But if you don't take your chance,
then you're absolutely out. 100% probability.
You don't play into your. You can even say if you don't play into your randomness.
Yeah. This whole podcast was that, though, right? What are the odds that me and you live in Lakeway and Spicewood, Texas at this time, that we happen to be officing out of this space, and that all of the cameras happen to be there, and all of these things lined up that it was like, hey, we got to shoot our shot.
Yeah.
This whole concept that we have here is taking a chance. I don't know what the Goliath is that we're trying to fight. It'll probably pop its head up at some point, but when it does, look, we're there. We are here waiting for, I guess, that confirmation, and for a Saul type to be like, hey, take down this Goliath. We need you.
There it is. Mm-hmm. Come on, Saul.
In the meantime, we just talk.
Yeah. That's good.
Yep.
Okay.
So I want to go over one other thing.
Shoot.
While we're just on the talking theology as non-theologians.
Mm-hmm.
Something that got me very interested in the Bible was a quote from Benjamin Franklin. I just want your thoughts on this because I found something the other day reading as well. Benjamin Franklin was agnostic, admitted to being agnostic, but he knew the Bible well, and he came from a family that was very religious. And he had this quote about the Bible, and I'll probably butcher it. It was in his autobiography, something along the lines of, his belief was, in the Bible, God is not telling you what is sin and what is virtue, what is good and what is bad, because he wants to force you into something. He's saying it because it's good for you. And then I was reading, and I caught up on Mark 2:27. Mostly what he was saying was it's practical. He's like, it's practical. What's in the Bible, what's good and bad, is good and bad because it's good and bad for you in some way or form.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm reading, and in Mark 2:27, it's the part where the disciples are picking from the field, and the Sadducees or the Pharisees, somebody came up and they were like, hey, they're supposed to be fasting. What are you doing? And he says, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And I think that is a beautiful rephrasing of exactly what Ben Franklin was saying, which was the rules of the Bible were made for man because they're good for him. Man was not made to just follow the rules of the Bible. Like, that wasn't his purpose for being made. I don't know if that's true or not, but what it does is it frames things like keeping the Sabbath, things like staying clean from impurities, stuff like that, as the reason that is not some religious, like, I got to follow that. It's like, I do that because it's good for me. And so because of the way I was made,
there's fruit from that.
It's good for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that struck me. What are your thoughts?
A couple things. First one, where you said God is more, well, I don't think you said God is more, but you said God is moving us into making the decisions.
Yes.
Like that, something like that.
I think we have free will to make the decisions.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Part of his job is he's identified what those opportunities are and what those decisions are, and then he helps push us. You know, it's like there's a Y coming up, and he's like, here, I'm going to get you to right there until you got to, do something.
This is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
And he's pretty clear about it most of the time.
I'm just going to bring you right up to the, not the precipice, but the fork, where you have to then pick one.
Mm-hmm.
So that, totally. A lot of prayers and a lot of things I've heard from people lately and requests have been something to stir in them to get them to move and make a decision, really.
Yeah.
It's back to the depression thing almost, where it's like the inability to move. Sometimes I think that happens with people that say they have anxiety. It's like inability to make a decision on what to do with their time. They're like, I don't know if this would be good for me to do, or this would be good for me to do, or this would be good for me to do, or this would be bad for me to do, or maybe is doing nothing good for me right now. I can't even pick. And so it's like there's a gap between that fork and where they're at, and God helps you, like, let me get you right there. So then all you have is the decision.
Yeah.
And it's easy. That's the first one. Second one made me think of a little thought I was playing around with the other day, where things happen and people are, which heard differently or said differently by a couple other people is, I'm a human being, not a human doing. And so things happen. The Sabbath happens. We are people who do the Sabbath. What am I saying? Bumbling fool right now. Where am I trying to get with this? Yes. I should just say yes. I agree. Yeah, the Sabbath was made for man. Like, in Genesis, God did it, and Moses wrote it down to show us. Like, God have to rest? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tell us he had to, but he said it was good
for
to
us.
Rest on the seventh day.
Yeah. I guess my question is sometimes people look at the rules in the Bible like, or I guess prescriptions in the Bible, like they are rules from your parents.
Mm.
And sometimes your parents make a rule that makes no sense, and they know it makes no sense.
Yeah.
And you ask, why is the rule? And they say, because I told you so. And so the question is, are there rules? What Benjamin Franklin was, he was denying the assumption that there are rules in the Bible that exist because God told you so. And that everything that is in there exists because it is good for you, or the things that he says not to do exist because they are actually bad for you. Not just on a whim if he was just like, oh no, because I told you so. I think that people get that misconception, and they look at things like, we don't even have to go deep into it, sexual immoralities. And they go, oh, that's like my parents. He's just saying because I told you so, or whatever. And it's like, no, there are long-term consequences that will impact you that he knew ahead of time from the very beginning. When you break those rules, emotionally, mentally, physically, something can happen to you that is bad. And so I'm going to make that rule, right? It's not a because I told you so. It's because the things in there are actually good or bad for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
People don't come to terms with that.
So is what Benjamin Franklin was saying, was he saying that I guess I'm still mixed up on the question. Like, back it up then. When you tell someone something is good, or that the Bible is good for them, they're going to go, or at least an agnostic or an atheist usually goes, why?
Mm-hmm.
So when you say there's something fundamentally good, it almost like an incomplete sentence.
For the same reason that eating healthy is good for you.
Yeah.
You know?
When people get into like, what is healthy? What determines the standard? Like, there's this ambiguity around fundamental truth.
Yeah.
And just it being able to stand on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So was he acknowledging that the Bible is unambiguous? Like those are fundamentals
in
that statement? Cool.
And he was acknowledging that it's not because Daddy said so. That there's real reason behind it.
Yeah.
I have one that would just piss everybody off, so I'm not going to give that example. But a good example, or I guess an obvious example, would be like, do not lie. Do not lie is a great example. Because in the world we live in today, people can rationalize around lying, and they can say reasons why lying might be good. Oh, lying might help this person, save their feelings. It might do this or whatever. It feels better inside. And here's why it's a sin. Lying always feels better in the short term. Just like sin always is good in the short term. Mm-hmm. But in the long term, it sets you up for a disaster.
Yeah. And
so you don't know. And usually lies, the longer it takes for the truth to be exposed, which all lies will be exposed, right? That's what the Bible says, and that is absolutely true. The longer it takes for that lie to be exposed, the more it's going to hurt the person when it does get exposed.
Like mold.
And so you set them up for emotional damage down the road whenever they learn that you lied. You are always having to work yourself and exhaust yourself. You almost set up a different life path for yourself mentally that you have to carry on that lie. I mean, there's so many elements to it that people don't consider whenever they say, oh, well, in the short term, that lie was good. So that's the idea. It's like things like lying in there, they're not questionable. They are absolutely, if you do them in the short term, it will feel good. In the long term, it sets you up for something bad. And I say that flat out, every single one of them. Even ones you don't know.
Yeah.
So, oh, man, have we ever talked about Chesterton's fence?
No.
Chesterton's fence is a mental model.
Okay.
And the model goes, Chesterton walks up to a fence in the road, blocking trespassing. And he says, oh, well, this is stupid. Why is this here? I'm going to tear it down. And a wise man sitting next to the fence tells him, don't tear it down until you know the reason why it was there in the first place. That is the essence of the things that are good and bad in the Bible. If you cannot explain why they were there in the first place, why lying is there as a sin, something not to do. If you can't understand that, then you should not just try and rip it out and say, no, that doesn't apply anymore. That doesn't work anymore.
The world does that a lot.
They do it all the time.
Yeah.
Literally all the time.
Yeah.
And that, right, those barriers oftentimes exist to help us. So here's why the world keeps getting madder and madder, in my opinion. The world continues to get madder and madder because just like Chesterton, they walk up to the fence, some rule, some law that's been around in our society for a long time, and they say, I don't really like that one. We should take that down. And when the wise man says, first you need to know why it was there before taking it down, they go, nah, forget that guy too, and they take it down. And when they take it down, they open themselves up for all of these long-term bad impacts. Depression, anxiety, emotional distress, failed marriages, all kinds of things. And they say it's in the name of freedom. I should be able to do whatever I want. This gate shouldn't be here. But all it does is it locks them behind chains of emotional distress down the road.
And it did prove that they can do it.
Yeah.
It showed them, yeah, you do have the freedom.
Yeah.
And then you got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea. So let's take it all the way back. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is one of those fences, right? And when you try and take it down, first you need to understand why it was there. And I don't think you should take it down. You should keep the Sabbath. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what I see when I look at those prescriptions that are in the Bible, both good and bad, all of them. And there's some I can't explain, man. I mean, there's some that I look at and I'm like, I don't understand why they would say that. And then
I'm going to bring this back to what you see is all there is.
Uh-huh.
They see, I have my 7th day. I'm going to use it. I'm going to live my life. YOLO. I want to get all out. Like whatever they say. They never look at the other option of what that sacrifice could mean. And they don't even consider it. Like you said, they don't talk to the wise man about what it could mean to take the fence down. They don't want to know.
Yep.
Strangely enough, I don't think, what a stupid saying. Strangely enough. By subjecting themselves to learn what the wise man knows, they know their heart might change or their position might change.
Yeah.
And they don't listen. That's why they avoid those.
And they always do. It just comes right back down. Sin is doing what feels good in the short term at the expense of long-term harm. Possibility of long-term harm. That's key, right? Because not everybody, they may get caught way down the road, but I'm sure there are people that have made lies and then died the next week or die a year later. You know, like there are things that don't get uncovered, probably. But what you did whenever you did lie or whenever you committed whatever sin it was, is you put yourself in the game of flipping quarters. And you may be the lucky one who gets tails all the way down the road, but it's more probable you're going to get heads at some point. And the minute you get heads, that's the long-term pain that comes.
The ripples of that, though. Like, you use the word lucky, which, from the myopic, like, just me in the story perspective, sure. Lucky. Yeah. I danced with the devil and got away with it.
Yep.
In the grand scheme, it's like, what is that? What good is that really doing for?
Teaches you to do it more, and it teaches other people to do it more.
Yeah.
It's no good.
Yeah. And legacy and everything else, like
it adds players to the game. So that's what happens whenever you sin. Mentally, what's happening whenever you sin is you put yourself in the game flipping quarters. And the pain is going to come down the road. Who knows when? And maybe you make it to the very end of the game and you've been flipping tails so many times that you can go start writing books, telling other people how easy it is to sin, how easy it is to do what you did and get away with it. And that's the devil's game right there. That's what he loves to see. He'll promote the heck out of that. He'll make you so famous.
You eat the fruit and you won't die.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that went by really fast. I want to close with the concept that you brought up about many people right now having struggles executing, moving, pushing on what's stirring in their heart. I had a conversation with a guy about this recently, and I think that it's definitely, what's the word? Endemic? It's an epidemic. I guess I don't understand the definition of those words well enough to use it appropriately. It's spreading that fear to take a step and move in the direction you need to move. That is a great place where I think casting lots fits in. And I'm not encouraging people to do that and take that chance. That would be crazy because some bad things can happen there. But when I think about it hypothetically, outside of actually doing it in practice, I think, man, if I were stuck and I was saying, praying like crazy, I got to know, is this the right move to make right now? If it is, I'm going to flip tails. And then you just pull out that quarter and do it.
Yeah.
Maybe that gives you at the very least, maybe that gives you the confidence to be like, okay, today's the day then.
Yeah.
Like,
I find peace in knowing it's not guaranteed. It's my opportunity. I could win, I could fail. Like
Me too.
all those things are true about whatever scenario I walk into.
Yeah.
Even if I go like, gosh, I'm about to hit one of the really bad analogies. I was like, if you put me in a ring with like can't say it. I can't even say it. Yeah.
I think the people love it whenever you just drop these things, man. I don't know. It's going to be worth it.
No, it's so bad. Okay. If you put me in a ring with an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Like.
You're going to smoke him.
Most likely.
Mm-hmm.
I will never tell you that in my life.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed. Probably
That's
know
true.
that 11-year-old that they could walk in with a 6'8" 11-year-old that has like
judo
like
black belt or something.
Yeah, judo black belt, and he has like myostatin inhibition, like genetics, so he's like 300 pounds muscle. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There is always that out there.
Yep.
And
yeah, you could fail.
Yeah,
That's absolutely right.
and I think you got to be okay with that.
Something that I see that you and I do, that I would encourage everybody to do, but they have that mental block, is just do it. Like, just execute. People get really big into the analysis paralysis, and they want to know every angle about it. And what's funny is they think they're figuring out every angle about it, but really what they're doing is they're looking for confirmation evidence, and they're getting a lot of Wiziati.
Yep. Okay. I'm gonna hit shout out to brother right here.
Yeah.
We were in a conversation the other day, and I was in some analysis paralysis, and he gave me some direction, and then he sent me this the next day as a follow-up. It's by James Clear, which he wrote Atomic Habits, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
Patience only works if you do. So doing the work plus patience equals results. Planning to work plus patience equals just waiting. And I think it's what we do a lot of today. We like plan to work, and we consider the planning to work.
Yeah,
the thinking, the analysis. We're like, yeah, we're doing work right now. It's like, no.
And they build all these tools for us to do project management and planning, and we build out an entire process and calendar of what we're going to do for the next 3 years, and then we just keep adding to that instead of actually doing what's happening.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. That's a false sense of getting things done. So yeah,
cool.
Just go out there and do it. That's what we did with the pod.
Yep,
working out so far.
Mm-hmm.
So all right, man, we can wrap it up there. I think that's probably right on time.
Sweet. I
totally forgot to walk that way, but that's okay.